Thanks so much for joining, Sheridan. All
Yeah,
right. How are you doing?
I'm doing all right. Yeah, it's been getting gradually easier. First couple days were a little rough.
I can imagine. Probably physically, emotionally, everything.
Yeah, physically I got lucky. Got some rope burn, but otherwise nothing that lasted past the hospital stay. Um, and yeah, the emotional side's been a bit of a trip, but been good to talk to people, give lots of hugs.
Yeah, I can imagine.
Um, Well, I could start with the life jacket. I was wearing my ancient Stolkist. It was one of the Betsy's, the built for women ones.
Mm-hmm.
I got it in high school. It's probably a decade old, and I love that thing. It did its job, but I hadn't tightened it up. Um, I had loosened it the week before for like practice sale. We were out in 2 knots and didn't even think about it, and I hadn't tightened it back down to slightly uncomfortable. So it worked, and I am so incredibly glad I had it on, but it could have worked a lot better. It did, ride up pretty well. By the time you saw the video of the rescue, um, it was getting pretty hard to swim with it on. Um, Retrospect, I could have just reached down and tightened it, but that didn't cross my mind in the water. The mom module is probably the only reason we were found by another race boat. They were maybe, sorry, 4 boat lengths away when I knew that they had seen us, which was a lot closer than I thought. And they had said if they were just looking for our heads, first of all, they weren't looking, they didn't hear the initial radio call. Um, but if they had been looking for just our heads, they wouldn't have been able to see us. My life jacket's light blue when it's dry, but in the water, especially for that long, it was, a nice dark gray color, just like the water.
Mm-hmm.
Um, so the fact that we had the mom module was incredibly important. Um, I like to think that the Coast Guard could have found us without it, but it gave us a little extra flotation as well. It's got the life ring kind of attached
Mm-hmm.
to the base of the mast. So each of us wrapped an arm around that as a little bit extra to keep our
Mm.
heads out of the water. The waves were so tall that it was, if we'd been floating on flat water, it would have been okay, but the waves kept coming over our heads and it was, at least mine, it was tough. Um, so I can't recommend that enough. I learned at the yacht club last night that fisheries is out of Dan buoys
That's what I
as of
heard. Yeah.
think that's just the coolest thing in the entire world. Makes me feel all sorts of warm and fuzzy. We're planning on going and buying one of the mom units over the weekend. I think they still have a couple of those in stock. Um, for my parents' boat, we're talking about getting one for the power boat that I live on. Um, and my sister's boyfriend has a boat as well. He's also thinking that's probably a good idea. I hadn't really thought of them as a casual boat thing. I just saw them as a race boat,
Mm-hmm.
extra piece of safety gear. And my gosh, I mean, even if it had just been, my family out there and we were doing a casual sail, that would have been incredibly important for the flotation and the visibility. Um, we we've been guesstimating based on AIS history that we drifted about a third of a mile, even with the drogue on the mom unit. Um,
Mm.
so even if you you would expect some level of drift if you're looking for a person in the water, but that just expands the radius so much.
Right.
Um, yeah, can't recommend those enough. I will also be purchasing a personal AIS beacon
Mm.
and then probably never leaving the dock without it again.
Mm-hmm.
The idea that no one knew exactly where we were was terrifying. I had
Mm-hmm.
assumed that my crew had at least gotten a last known position, which they did, and sent it to the Coast Guard. But I didn't know that in the water, so that's a little terrifying. Would have felt a lot better knowing that there was something transmitting, even if it's not perfectly accurate.
Right.
Um, oof. Let's see. Oh, and the life sling. Um, I am so unbelievably, incredibly grateful for Freya and Lodos. But there was definitely some learning to be done. Lodos has already reached out and said they're completely redoing their safety protocols based on the actual experience and how they're thinking about the life sling and everything. They did get us out of the water. It could have been a little more graceful. Um, Freya made the first attempt. They saw us first, and Lotus was right behind them as they came up to us. They dropped their jib throughout the life ring right away, but didn't drop their main. So they flew by us twice.
I'm sorry,
And
is that Freya that you're talking about? Okay.
yeah, that part wasn't in the video. It was right before.
Hmm.
They yeah, they went by twice with just the main up, but there was so much breeze. I mean, from my perspective, it looked like they were doing Mach 7.
Sure,
And
sure.
the life sling went skipping across the waves right by us. We were both like, I'm not touching that.
Yeah.
And by the second pass, they yelled something like, well, we can't grab you guys. We were like, yeah, we know, take your main down. Um, so I think they would approach that differently in the future. Um, by then, Lodos had gotten all sails down and gotten their motor on, and they did two passes as well, and that's the part that is in the video. The first pass we grabbed on, and I think they were following life sling textbook, right? How it's supposed to be done. So they told us to wait until we got to the life sling, and then they would pull us in, and we did. That's where my rope burn came from. Um, but by the time we got to the life sling, I don't think they'd taken the boat out of gear, or they were still throttled up a little too much, or just going downwind. And because my life jacket was too loose and I was exhausted and not really able to help myself too much, I got towed straight underwater. And
Mm.
I think Brent was doing better at that point. I don't think he was underwater, but I couldn't do it, so I let go and held onto the man overboard module. He stayed on the life sling for a little bit and then realized I had left and let go and swam back to me. Crazy. That's that I think it's a crazy thing to do, but I'm so incredibly grateful. Um, and then on the second pass, Lodos had slowed down and we grabbed the line about 30 feet away from the boat and they said, okay, wait until you get to the life sling. And we said, no, pull. I remember watching the transom come up and down a few times in the waves as we were, maybe 10 feet off and thinking, gosh darn it, I've survived this long and I'm going to die by
Yeah.
boat squishing. But I didn't. I got up to the transom and I lifted my arms up in the air and two big guys levitated me onto the deck.
Yeah. So it wasn't you intentionally like timing, waiting for the stern to drop. You kind of put your arms up and they may have kind of coordinated with the
Yeah,
waves. Okay.
I don't know.
Mm.
I don't know if there was any thought behind it. There certainly wasn't for me. I was
Uh-huh.
just very excited.
I can
Um,
imagine.
they didn't have to, with getting someone out of the water with a life jacket on. Sometimes you have to do the dunk and then like use the life jacket. Um, I don't think they had to do that with Brent either. They certainly didn't with me, which I was so very grateful for. They were able to just get
Yeah.
us up, but I mean, I had so many layers of wet clothes on. If it hadn't been an open transom, then we probably would have needed to be lifted with the life sling. I think I could have gotten into it in the water. It would have been a bit of a trick, but um, yeah, thank goodness for the open transom.
Right. Right. Tell me about the aftercare. How did they take care of you once you were back in the boat?
It was a whirlwind. They well, so when I was first laid out on deck, um, I couldn't even lift my head up. I couldn't get my arms underneath me. I really couldn't move. I kind of turned into a jellyfish. And they sat me up for a second on deck just so I could catch my breath. That was a trick. And then we stumbled downstairs and started to get the wet layers off. I think I got down to my wool long johns on top, but I left my fally pants on. And JJ on Lotus lent me a spare fleece and a hat. And then at that point, the sheriff's boat had pulled up alongside. They asked us if we wanted to get onto the sheriff's boat since it had a heater and it was going to go faster. And both of us were like, we're not in a place to make decisions right now, but sure.
Yeah.
Um, so we went right back up on deck. I sat down next to the lifelines and remember thinking there's no way in heck I can get my legs over that rail.
Hmm.
The sheriff's boat was bouncing around in the waves too. It's a miracle Lotos didn't take some gel coat chunks. Um, but the nice man on the back of the sheriff's boat said, "Ma'am, this is why I work out, and I can lift you
Oh,
with one arm." And I closed my eyes and then flopped onto the deck of the sheriff's boat.
wow.
That was pretty cool. And
Yeah.
then I crawled inside and just laid down on the floor until
Hmm.
someone came and got me into a passenger seat. Um, Brent followed right behind, I'm assuming a little more gracefully than I did. And because we had life jackets back on. Um, and then we took a 55 knot ride up to Edmonds, which was wild. The sheriff's boat had come from Kitsap County. They had heard the Coast Guard call, and they were already dressed and down on the boat in Eagle Harbor,
Mm.
and thought, the Coast Guard's going to have to go down to the boat, get dressed, and then get on the road on the way. So we should just go for it. And they beat them there. Um, so they gave me some of those like plastic reflective blankets that
Hmm.
were completely ineffective. I didn't have any body heat to reflect back. Just made the shivering sound louder. That is about the point that I started shivering. Was on the sheriff's boat at some point. Um, sorry, my cat wants to say hi. And then the EMTs came down. One of them stripped me completely. That was fun. And then wrapped me up in as many blankets as she could. And they carried me off the boat onto a gurney. I assume I couldn't see anything. And then wheeled us up to um, the trucks. It was my first ride in a fire truck.
Oh, oh, in a fire truck, not even a, wow.
Yeah, I didn't know that until I read the Seattle Times article with a picture of him at the top of the dock. Um, and then, well, I had also been swearing a little bit. I was very uncomfortable.
Oh,
And I apologize for
I would have been blue streak, believe me. Yeah.
I apologize for swearing so much. And one of them goes, "Well, you're in a fire truck. We've heard worse." Okay, that's fair. Um, they tried to read my temperature and couldn't. They tried a couple times. They tried to get an IV in and couldn't in a few different places. I have some wicked bruises. And I think they ran an EKG with, all the little stickers. But it was a pretty quick ride to Edmonds, Swedish. Um, One of them let me borrow his phone to call my dad and let him know, you know, I was out of the water and on the way. Turns out Blue was about 5 minutes behind the boats that pulled us out of the water. And they had managed to get sails on deck and get the engine underway. So they would have been right there, and they did watch us, depart on the sheriff's boat. So he knew I was okay.
Hmm.
Um, but it's good to talk to him. Um,
Sure.
and he had said, he was like, "Okay, well, we'll get the boat back to Elliott Bay and I'll hop right in the truck and I'll come up to you." And then there was some mumbling in the background and he said, "Just kidding, they're dropping me off in Edmonds and I'll take an Uber." So he was about 20 minutes after, he was there about 20 minutes after we arrived at the ER. And then the ER gave me a heated IV, which was
Hmm.
fun.
Hmm.
And the heat blanket, like a plastic bubble wrap sort of thing that they plug a heater into. Um, and well, they tried to get a temperature again and couldn't. They did the forehead thermometer and that read 91. But they couldn't get one from the one that goes under your tongue.
Hmm.
So one of the nurses on the way out of the room went, "Well, guess we have to get a rectal temperature."
Yeah.
And I went, excuse me." The nice lady nurse sitting next to me was like, "Don't worry, I'll send everyone else out of the room and I'll do it." And I was like, "No, no, give me the stick, please. Let me try." And I held the stick as tightly as I possibly could under my tongue. And the guy the guy with the machine kept going, well, it's not getting anything. It's trying. It's not getting anything. 90. Okay, we're good. Um, and then yeah, about an hour with all the heater options, and my body temp came back to 98.1. And they were like, well, we ran all the tests we could. They tested my heart, my muscles, my electrolytes, and then all the blood tests and everything, kidneys, and everything came back fine. I told them, of course my electrolytes came back fine. I just drank a whole bunch of salt water.
Right,
But,
right.
you know, um, yeah, and they released us, and my husband had come up as well and met me at the ER. He had a car, so we were able to go back to Elliott Bay right about the time the boat was arriving and debrief with the crew and talk about, what had happened. I got to prove I was alive and give everybody really big hugs, and then start the conversation, which will continue for a long time, I'm sure, on how not to do that again. Um, but yeah, a lot of people involved in making sure I'm still here.
Absolutely, absolutely. Now, I wasn't clear. Which boat got you the mom unit? Was that off of Blue?
Yeah, that was right away.
How did
So
they, in the middle of all of that, how did they do that?
I think it was Ian that did it right away as soon as he knew that there were people in the water, which I'm guessing was before he actually saw our heads come up, because we had washed off the starboard side, port side, um, and I'm assuming there was some visual of me washing away and then Brent catapulting after me.
Mm,
Um, so by the time my head came above water, it was already in the water, kind of near the
yeah.
transom.
Wow.
Um, Brent, yeah, yeah, they did. They really did an incredible job, all things considered.
Yeah.
Um, Brent popped up kind of mid-boat, and I was up near the bow, so he was able to grab it first. And then I had tried for about 2 seconds to swim to Blue and realized she was just blown away too fast and there was no chance.
Mhm.
So I turned around and tried to swim to him completely ineffectively. He swam much more effectively over to me, and then yeah, it was maybe 20 seconds without the mom unit in the water, because
Wow.
uh, I had a lot of breath to catch.
I can imagine. I can imagine. Wow, that's amazing. So you were washed off. He was catapulted off, but you were kind of forward of the mom unit, and then he, he kind of pulled
Yeah,
the mom unit to you as you came together. Okay. Wow.
exactly. We keep the mom unit on the transom.
Uh-huh.
Um, and yeah, I was up on the bow in the middle of a sail change, so washed off the bow. He was at the mast, ready to hoist the jib.
Mm,
And I don't know exactly how he left the boat, but he
mhm.
described it as, a launch.
Yeah.
And
Wow.
then I think he swam under the boat. I think the boat kind of just blew over the top of me.
Okay.
Because there was no swimming. I didn't know what direction was up, so I didn't want to risk swimming the wrong direction, you know.
Hmm. So you were next to the boat near the bow and when the boat went over you.
Yeah, I think so. I remember washing back along the deck, um, some distance. I kept thinking I was going to hit a shroud or a stanchion or Brent or the mast or something. Um, but the jib had washed off and broken the stanchions beforehand, so I
Mm.
had nothing to
Mm.
stop me.
Wow. How far did it take the stanchions off as it went back?
Just two stanchions and half the bow pulpit, because I had just released it. I'd had it lashed down on the foredeck while we were going downwind, and I had just taken the sail tie off when it all happened. So as we went down into the wave, it washed off, and it's just so big. There's so much pressure.
Mhm.
It tore the head out of the foil, and then oh, I should plug my computer in real quick. Um, but yeah, it tore the head out of the foil, and then washed underneath the boat like I had done. So by the time I came up above water, I could see it floating up on the port side and then off the starboard side, but still tacked on. Um,
Um,
and they did their best to get it out of the water in one piece, but we're mostly focused on getting underway. So they ended up cutting it in about half, which is unfortunate.
Well, sure. Well, they had their priorities in
But
the
you
right
know,
place. Yeah.
yeah, they did.
So
So
you
you
and the
and
sail went off on the starboard side, is that right? And then you all got washed underneath to the port side?
Exactly. Yep.
Well, that's so amazing that they got the mom unit out that fast. Because it sounds like I think you said so the boats that saw you didn't see didn't see you until about 4 boat lengths away, and it was just because of the mom unit.
Yeah. They when they reached out, we've been chatting over Facebook, but like a couple of the crew members, um, and they said without the mom unit, there's no way they would have seen us. Um, I had I had a whistle in my life jacket, which I've had in my life jacket since I bought it, and I move around all the time, and it's tied in. And um, at some point, I should have thought about it and at least had, a little more um, ability to make our presence known. Granted, with the amount of wind and how loud it must have been on the boats, anyways, I don't know that would have made a difference, but it's a loud whistle. Um, but I didn't even think about it until the next day.
Yeah, yeah. Wow.
It's
Oh,
yeah, it's a lot. It's a lot to process.
there's so much a lot to process. Yeah.
I have a
You're
really incredible newfound will to live, so that's
good.
something.
Yeah, yeah. That's something to take for granted. That's great.
Yeah,
Yeah. It must have been so stressful for your dad too. I mean, being on the boat, knowing that you're in the water.
I cannot imagine. He claims to be okay. Well, when I look back up at the boat, I could see three people. Our pit gal, who's done a lot of bow, was up on the bow, probably trying to get everything out of the water. Our tactician was at the transom, pointing and yelling. I couldn't hear what he was yelling. He was pointing at the mom unit and trying to tell us that we were both in the water and we needed to get together. I didn't, all I could see was frantic pointing. Um, and then my dad in the middle with both hands on the lifeline and just pure terror on his face.
Mm-hmm.
Um, we had been in the water for I don't know how many minutes, but it felt like a third of the way in when Brent asked me if I was sure we were the only two people to go over. Um, and I wasn't.
Sure. How could you be?
I couldn't have been. And that was an awful feeling. Um, not knowing, if there was someone else that didn't have the mom unit that we couldn't see or hear or get,
Mm-hmm.
maybe, right? Um, so part of our, reanalysis on Blue of our whole safety procedures, it's not necessarily something we're going to add to the list per se, but if someone has the opportunity to do a quick head count and tell the people in the water, like, you're the only person in the water, or there are two of you, that would have
Mm-hmm.
taken a lot of stress off of us. Um,
Right.
and we were pretty sure, but we couldn't see everyone on deck. So
Sure.
yeah,
Yeah.
would not
Wow.
recommend it.
No, can't imagine. So when they were calling to you from the deck, did did Brent already have the mom unit at that point, or did neither one of you have the mom unit at that point?
I think he had it at that point, um, because it had a drogue on it. It stayed pretty stationary, and he was able to grab it pretty quickly. Um, it's hard to say. It all happened really fast. I mean, I don't remember much time in the water without the mom unit.
Mhm.
Thank goodness. Because I think, I mean, if it had just been my life jacket, it would have been tough. If it had been tightened properly,
Mhm.
probably a lot better. I'm planning on doing a lot of swimming in my life jacket and really learning exactly what it feels like. I feel like a dummy for not having done that before, but you always put it on and tighten it a little bit, and
Sure.
then you're like, okay, it's on. I'm wearing my life jacket. Good job, me.
Yeah.
Um, Tight matters.
Right.
Uncomfortable hug, slightly uncomfortable hug.
Yeah.
That's a term I had gotten from a friend of mine in the Coast Guard.
Mm-hmm.
You know, um, and then, well, so I've had a lot of people comment on inflatables versus dinghy life jackets and tethers and crotch straps and all the things. Um, Personally, I'm really glad I was in a dinghy life jacket because I went under the boat and through who knows how many lines. And I don't know that I would have gotten all the way under the boat if I'd had an inflatable on because they have so much more flotation. Um, I I couldn't have swum at all. I've been in the water in an inflatable with the safety at sea, and it's hard to move.
Hmm.
You do
Hmm.
float better, but uh,
Hmm.
but getting through those lines was a really crucial part of the process. Um, if I'd been wearing a tether, uh, I would not choose to wear a tether again. Um, if I'd been wearing a tether, we went from 24 knots to like 5, 3. I don't know if it went exactly down to 0, but we stopped really fast. And I don't know that my neck would have survived that. Um,
Hmm.
and then I washed off the starboard side and went under the boat. So at what point, I don't know what point I would have stopped. And
Hmm.
if I'd gotten stuck under the boat with a tether, that would be counterintuitive. And
Right.
I would have preferred to float with the mom unit and know that I would be safely picked up personally.
Yes.
Um, and then crotch straps. It would have helped my life jacket riding up, but so would have tightening my life jacket. Um, I find when I have them on, I get stuck on things a lot more, so I don't love them.
Mhm.
And in my dinghy life jacket, I don't usually wear one unless it's required for a race, and then I'll do like a sail tie or something.
Sure.
Um, but usually at that point, inflatables are required anyways for the harness, so
Hmm.
then I'll just use the inflatable crotch strap. But I'm not going to be changing my dinghy life jacket. I'll just be tightening it a lot more in the future.
Hmm. Hmm.
Um, those are all opinions. I
Hmm.
can't say what would have happened, but those are those were my thoughts before. Pretty well prepared
Uh-huh.
for exactly this situation, with the exception of tightening my life jacket and not having an AIS beacon. Um, I've heard a lot of people talking about AIS versus EPIRB beacons,
Hmm.
and from what I understand, AIS is better in the sound, and then EPIRB is better if you're offshore, because in the sound you have a lot of people with receivers picking you
Hmm.
up, and they're the
Hmm.
ones that are going to be looking for you. The EPIRB in the sound gets set off so often that we've all gotten a little desensitized to it. So
Hmm.
if you're out in the middle of the Pacific, that's the right answer. If you're in here, I'm going to go with an AIS beacon
You
personally.
mentioned going through the lines underneath the boat. Do you mean the lifelines that had come off, or do you mean like the spinnaker sheets and those type of lines?
Well, I'm not sure. I didn't hit any of them. I didn't get caught up in any of them. Ooh, knives are another point that I'll make in a second.
Okay.
Um, I now know that the jib went over, the jib sheets were in the water, the spinnaker very well could have. It didn't because the tack had popped. Um, but on other boats that would have been a concern. The sail itself was in the water. Um, so I got super lucky and magically maneuvered via turbulence through all of it, but I
Yeah.
could not have. There's a lot to get caught on. I thought when I was underwater, I was going to risk the boat sailing over me and getting stuck on the rudders or the keel or the sail
Hmm.
drive, any number of things. So I was very glad to be as svelte as I could
Hmm.
in the life jacket. Um, and then knives. I was a total dummy and put on my spare pair of Fowley pants that morning that didn't have a knife in the pocket. Um,
Hmm.
I'm a bow person. I should always have a knife in my pocket,
Hmm.
but I always have a multi-tool,
Hmm.
and it lives in a wet, salty environment I don't pay enough attention to it. I know now. It's often very hard to open, and because it's a multi-tool, I need to be looking at it to know which one's the knife and which one's the screwdriver. And if
Hmm.
I pulled out a bottle opener, it wouldn't have helped me very much.
Right, right.
It probably wouldn't have been sharp enough for the really intense sheets we have on that boat, and they had to cut a carbon sail and learned exactly how hard that is. That's not something I
Hmm.
could have done with my goofy little multi-tool. So I will be much more conscious of what condition my knife is in. And I'm planning on, my husband was a diver, um, and he had suggested getting a dive knife because the one that he used to carry was way too big for my situation. He had a 6-inch blade sheath to his leg. So it's not anything to open. You just grab it, pop the safety
Mhm.
off, and then you have a knife in hand. Um, I would like to find like a 3-inch option, but in a sheath that I don't have to open, um, serrated with a nice blunt tip, so I'm not going to stab myself, you know,
Mhm. Mhm.
and sail with that, especially on days like that, on my leg or somewhere accessible, not in a pocket that I have to open that might get stuck under a life jacket strap or a crotch strap or who knows. Um, so I'll have two going forward.
That
Um,
makes sense. Was
that
your
would be very,
multi-tool
very
in your
sharp.
pocket, or where was your multi-tool?
No, it was in my other Frowley pants at home.
Oh, okay, okay, so yeah, yeah. I know how that is.
Um,
Yeah, it's like
I just,
purses. I only carry one purse anymore because I'd always have the wrong things. Same things.
exactly.
Why does Margaret wear the same outfit every time on the boat? Because then I know where my knife
Yes, then everything's in the same place.
is. Yeah.
Yep. Yep. There are a lot of things I'm going to pay a lot more attention to now.
Yeah.
And a lot of things that everyone should pay more attention to. I was, prepared enough. I survived, but it could have looked a lot different. And if I can spread awareness on like when was the last time you checked your knife, and
Mhm.
where's your whistle and
Mhm.
how tight is your life jacket and how do you release the mom unit and all the little details. Um,
Mhm.
if my boat hadn't responded exactly the way that they did, we
Yeah.
wouldn't be here.
Yeah.
They called the Coast Guard. I don't know exactly how long it took, but I know it was within minutes, if that, with our last known GPS coordinates. Um, I think radio procedure is, I'm hoping something that's going to look different because a lot of the fleet didn't know anything had happened. The race committee, I believe, wasn't aware until after we were out of the water. Um, my skippers talked to them a great deal, and they're already planning on purchasing another radio. But just having 16 on downstairs is what we all do. But it needs to be very loud if it's downstairs, and probably should be in your handheld in the cockpit as well.
Mhm.
Um, and you have to be listening to it because
Mhm.
most of the time nothing's going to happen. But
Mhm.
um, the boats that found me didn't know that they were looking for me.
So I
And
was wondering, did any of the boats that found you, had any of the boats that came in and stopped heard the call on channel 16, or was it all just they kind of stumbled across you?
Freya and Lodos, I believe, had not heard the call, or they didn't know that they were in the vicinity.
Yeah.
Um, Smoke did, I think. They were actively looking for us, and absolutely came up on Blue. They were pretty
Ah.
close by, so they came up on Blue, knew she was in distress, asked if they needed help, and my skipper immediately said, "We have people in the water over there."
Mhm.
Um, Brent and I from the water could see everything, so we watched them pull sails, and we were
Wow.
really hoping like they
Yeah.
were coming to look for us and not
Yeah.
just like, all right, we're done for the day.
Yeah,
Um,
exactly.
they uh they didn't really have a starting point though. I assume I don't know if the GPS coordinates of last known position got to them. I assume they did, but I wasn't there. Um, but even with that, again, we were drifting and hard to
Mhm.
see. I mean, falling over in 4 or 5 foot waves is kind of the worst case scenario for
Mhm.
visibility. Um, so they knew they were coming for us, and then they were able to see the sails coming down, and that glued them in to go over there. Same thing
Mhm.
with the ferry. They saw the sails down and boats milling around in circles, and that's why they came to that spot. We got super lucky that we fell off on ley line, and
Yeah,
it was
yeah.
everybody else's ley line too.
Note to self, be on the lead boat and fall off on the ley line. Yeah.
Exactly. Yeah. uh, yeah. So many pieces of really incredible um, boat work and procedure following, and so many pieces of luck.
Yeah, absolutely.
Had Lodos and Freya not stumbled upon us, the chopper, I never saw the chopper. I think that's kind of cool.
Oh.
The
Mhm.
chopper was right behind, so
Oh, okay.
they would have had better visibility, especially with the mom unit,
Uh-huh.
um, and probably found us within a couple minutes after that.
Oh, okay. So the cops
But
the copter arrived after you're already on the boat, and
I don't know. From what I've heard, it was either arriving or flying overhead right about the time we were getting pulled out of the water, but I have absolutely no memory of it. And I feel like that would have been hard to miss. I mean, I was a little distracted, but
Yeah, yeah,
a
exactly.
chopper is kind of a noticeable thing.
Exactly. Exactly. How much of a difference did the ferry coming upwind of you make your memory? And I don't know if you remember the waves. I mean, did them kind of acting like a wind block help the waves?
Yeah. Um, I don't know if I could have said from the water, but having watched the video, it was huge. Um, like I said, the waves were all huge from the water.
Mhm.
They were all above my head. That was all that really mattered.
Yeah,
Um,
yeah.
but when you watch the video, like right at the end, Troy kind of panned up and looked at the rest of the sound, and the area that we were in was not whitecapping and much
Mhm.
calmer than what we had been in. So I'm sure it was huge, and especially for like the transfer to the sheriff's boat, I can't imagine if that had been rougher, what that would have
Yeah.
looked like. Lotos definitely would have come out with gel coat damage. Um, excuse me. Yeah, so I assume it helped a great deal, and I want to see if I can find a way to contact the captain and
Yeah.
reach out with a, oh my gosh, huge thank you.
Well, I'm gonna try to reach out to him as well, and if I can find that contact information, I'll definitely share it with you.
Love that. Thank you. I know
Yeah,
Brent would too. We've been sending lots of thank yous.
I can imagine. Wow. Yeah, I'm gonna ask you. There's a Hanson Medal nomination process that's happening, but I'm gonna ask U.S. Sailing if they would also write we do letters of commendation to like the ferry. That
Oh,
they,
wonderful.
yeah, something to. As you say, so many pieces came together. It's amazing.
Yeah. The ferry knew they were diverting before they even left the dock. I
That's what
think
I
that's
heard.
incredible.
Yeah.
Um, I got that off of one of Troy's comments on one of the many
Hmm.
Facebook posts, that they were fully loaded, and the captain came over the radio and said, or the speakers, I guess, we're gonna go assist in a man overboard situation, and then we'll get you where we're going eventually." I think that's just incredible. Although I
Yeah.
remember looking up from the water at a ferry, first of all, terrifying. No one wants to be looking down the length of a ferry from the water. That seems
Right.
bad. Logically, I knew they were there for me and they weren't going to run me over, but
Hmm.
the squirrel brain was not quite sure. Um, and then second thought was, oh my God, I am inconveniencing so many people right
Oh,
now with my little
really?
mishap.
Oh, well, from that video, you can see, I mean, everybody was so excited. I'm,
Oh my gosh, that made me cry so hard.
yeah,
The cheer on the ferry. I don't
exactly.
I don't think I noticed it when I came out of the water, but again, very distracted. Um, but hearing it on the video was just beautiful, just
Yeah.
wonderful.
Yeah. So nobody was complaining about being inconvenienced there. What an amazing thing. How's Brent doing? Is he doing okay?
Well, we've been talking a lot, and checking in on each other every day, one way or
Mhm.
another. We're both kind of going through it. The nightmares were a thing for a while. I've been taking a sleep aid because I have insomnia anyways, and I did not want to be up awake thinking about all of that. Um, so that's a bit of a concern. The flashbacks for the first couple days, especially, were brutal. Um,
Hmm.
but it's getting a little better every day.
Mhm.
I think getting back on a boat will help me personally. I'm not going to be doing bow for a minute,
Yeah,
uh,
yeah.
but I'm going out this weekend, with
That's
my
not,
with Helios. Just for, snowbird, super simple, chill day. If it's over 15 knots, I'm not going to go.
are you going on
Um,
Saturday or Sunday?
Saturday.
Yeah, Saturday is looking spicy, at least in the morning, but
Oh, well, maybe we'll sit at the dock and drink beer then.
yeah, there
Um,
is that.
the skipper, they were out racing last weekend as well, with my sister on board, and they had a very spicy day that, kept it all together, but rounded up a few times and filled the cockpit with water. And
Mhm.
he was like, "Yeah, I think 20 knots is the cutoff for that boat for a while. Um, so, we'll give it a shot. But just being on a sailboat floating will be, a first step in the right direction. And
Exactly.
fortunately, I live on a boat, so I'm already starting the immersion therapy.
There you go. That's a good way to look at it. Did Brent was wearing a inflatable, right?
No, he had on one of the boat coats. Oh,
Oh, boat coat. Okay.
yeah, so also a dinghy jacket, sort of like a foam one, but really a great one. It I think is a little more flush than the one that I was wearing, and he seemed to be floating better. He had it tighter, um, so it was a good answer. I don't know exactly what the model was, but
But
uh,
a float coat like the jacket with the built-in inflation, you mean?
no inflation. We just had them on for extra flotation, but it was just another foam jacket.
Oh, so Brent was just wearing another foam life jacket. Okay.
Hmm.
Did he have and that wouldn't have did that have crotch straps on it?
I don't believe so. No.
So he was doing the same thing of maybe trying to pull it down or
I think he was doing better than I think his was a lot tighter. So
mm,
he didn't seem to be having the same problem.
mhm.
But I can't really say, but he was definitely more above the water than I was.
Okay. Well, if you wouldn't
Oh,
mind
sorry, it's my
sharing
husband.
those contacts that I emailed you of the other people who've gone overboard with Brent in case he wants to talk to any of those people as well. And they're all very
Absolutely. Yeah.
sincere in, saying, hey, reach out. And I know when they talk to each other that they talk about things that none of the rest of us have any idea happens, and we can't, and we don't need to. You, I
Yeah. I
really,
wouldn't recommend it.
yeah, but I really appreciate you so much taking the time to talk about this and the lessons learned. And um, I know it's a lot to process for you right now. And at the same time, people are so interested. Um, one of the good things that comes out of this is you've got the community's attention. And so, this is the time when I'm glad that the stores are selling out of, you know, um,
I am too.
mom units and Dan buoys and things like that.
And everyone I've talked to has said, I'm going to wear my life jacket more often and I'm going to
Yeah,
think about these things a lot harder. And that is the positive that comes away from the whole thing. I so appreciate you teaching safety and all of these things because we should all be listening right now. And if I can, make everyone take it a little more seriously, then that's a positive. That's a good thing.
absolutely. Thank you. And, you know, part of the message here, when we train, we try to train, but it's a quiet day. The boat's working and we pretend like one person's going overboard, and so part of your story is sometimes the boat's broken. There's two people in the water, and you've got to be ready for those situations as well. And so I think that's helpful for a lot of people who are thinking through, oh, you know, I'm a great sailor, and if I lose somebody overboard, that's okay. I can drive my boat back. But
Right?
but
Yeah, you just like, oh, you just tack over and turn around. Not exactly all the time. Had, an old skipper reach out. Um, they're training for Van Isle 360 and they're doing their
mhm,
man overboard drills this weekend. And he was like, what are your notes? What can we
mhm,
do differently, what to make it more effective? And I had said, always do it with sails up.
mhm,
Pretend a line has gone in the water. Make sure your crew's checking that the prop's clear before you put the boat in gear, because that's like mistake number one. You
mhm.
panic and just turn the motor on and try to motor straight back and wrap a line around the prop, and then you're fully disabled and you can't do anything. Um, Preferably do it on a windy day in waves. If you lose a fender, then you've learned more.
Yeah,
But we all do it on the nice calm days when we're like, nothing else to do. Better throw a fender overboard and see what happens.
right, right.
um, uh, oh gosh, there's a whole list. I can send you the text that I'd written and with like
Yeah, would be
here's
wonderful.
here's what I think. Yeah.
Thank you so much because I know we've talked about a lot. I love your kitty there. What a great, I tell you,
My little emotional support cat.
I was going to say total emotional support cat. He is perfect. He looks warm and fuzzy and just he's
Yep.
perfect.
Very snuggly. Has been very extra snuggly for this last week. I think
Oh,
she knows.
Oh,
You
look
sure
at
do.
that. Well, thank you again. So much
Thank you.
appreciate this.
Really.
And I hope
And
to,
as I keep thinking of things, I'll send them to you. It's like
that
I'm writing up a little article. No one's asked for it yet, but I figured while it's in my head, I should on personal safety gear with, my thoughts on life jackets and um, man overboard modules, knives, that sort of thing. I can send you
will,
that when I finish it too.
we would love that because in fact, the U.S. Sailing Safety at Sea Committee is working with John at CYC to kind of bring together the lessons learned. And so that would be huge in part because then it could be shared not only with our local safety community, but, the national safety people to share. So that would be
Sure.
great.
Yeah.
Thank you. And
Thank
hopefully
you.
in a few weeks, we'll be able to invite you to a Hanson Medal award ceremony as well. So
That would be fantastic. I would love
it,
that.
it's not going to happen tomorrow, but hopefully sometime next month. So thanks
Super.
again. I'll let you go. I really appreciate it. And
Thank you. Yeah, but please reach out if I missed anything or if you have any questions. I'm happy to talk about it.
all right. Thanks so much, Sheridan. Have a good evening.
You too. Cheers.
Bye now.
Bye.